think there are a lot of people, myself definitely included, who compartmentalize themselves into different places. So I have a private life that very few people know all that much about, and a public life that other folks know more about, though it's not super well known to most people around me. But what I wanted to say today is this: where there's a piece of my private life that I don't tell people about a lot, and it is what happened when I left home and went on the journey into adulthood. In my life, what happened was I went and pretty much immediately joined the Air Force and went in, and I did not go back to my parents' house, a thing that I sort of regret at this point because they're no longer around for me to do that with them. I got to see my mother some and a little bit my father after I left home, but largely that didn't happen. And for the most part, they were living their lives and I was living mine. And while they were moving out of the public sphere in a serious way, I was moving into it, though not in quite as serious a way as I think they managed to do. I wanted to talk today on the idea of setting boundaries on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Thursday, the 17th of February of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on Minds.com, M-I-N-D-S, on Parler, on Gab, or wherever else you happen to be seeing me today. Today we're going to talk on the subject of setting boundaries, and I'm, of course, going to go through my notes because that way I am able to sort of create a cogent presentation that I can then sort of riff off, if you will, when I actually go to do my sort of free piece by the time this is all said and done. If you're one of those people who finds him or herself on the cusp of adulthood, you're very possibly going to have parents telling you what they think you ought to do, sometimes with little understanding of what you're going through at the time you're going through it. The temptation is to swear them off. Frankly, that's likely to prolong the agony. That's more or less prone to do, okay? One of the hardest but best things to learn is how to set boundaries and stick with it. It can be hard, let's face it. For grown adults, feelings will get hurt as a result much of the time. The more ready you are to deal with that without holding grudges or separating yourself, the better things will turn out most of the time. I'm not saying that's always true, but it usually is. When you're dealing with friends, it's one thing. Whether it's parents or other family members, though, it's entirely another, and that's particularly the case when you're talking about parents. Like it or not, those folks likely spent a large percentage of their adult lives getting you to the point where you currently find yourself. You need to understand it's going to be difficult for them to think of you as autonomous even when you've been away from home, say at college or university for time, for some period. That's even more the case if they've been there in times of need that phone bill paid, or maybe they've been paying it for you when you're no longer at their place. Need a car and go to mom and dad to make that possible, whether or not they actually pay for it, or some other member of the family. It's things like this, right or wrong, that make them feel a sense of responsibility for you and, quite frankly, some degree of power over you. I get that you want them to back off. I submit to you that in time, that's what will happen. That said, I urge you to work to not poison the well. I promise there will be challenges between you for some time to come. Please work to keep them from becoming major points of contention. The hard part? Doing that and still setting boundaries. Nonetheless, that's the nature of such relationships. In fact, it's really the nature of relationships as a whole. And not just between you and parents here, I say it here, and other relatives, but between you and others with whom you must deal on a daily basis, or even not quite that frequently, honestly. It's not easy, but if you can learn to gently set boundaries, yet hold fast to them, you'll find you've mastered a life skill that'll serve you for the rest of your life. Final word: learn to be the grown-up in the room, even if there are others who are. You be one of those grown-ups. You be a grown-up in the room. This is what you need to do. Okay, I'm done with my notes. I recently saw a chain, I don't remember from where, in which people were talking about a parent or a couple of parents who were being sort of bossy or dominant in their children's life when their children was out on his or her own and doing things that they should not have done. And I'm just going to tell you something for the record. That sort of thing, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Get used to it. It will occur. As a child growing into adulthood, one of the things that you need to learn to do is say, this is the wall. You've hit the wall. We're not moving. If your mom or dad, particularly your mom, for lots of folks, comes into your house and starts to try and rearrange your house to tell you how things would be better off, and you have things how you want them to be, the answer to that is no, I really don't want that rearranged. I get that that's how you would do it. I'm not doing that. I may change my mind, and I'm willing to hear your suggestions, but please don't move my house around. That's just something that you do. You don't let it get into a fight. You move into a place where there's a deposit, and part of the conditions for the deposit are you don't smoke. No pets, no smoking. And one of your parents comes in and tries to smoke in your house. The answer is, I'm sorry, we can't do that here. That is a requirement of this place that I'm in, that you not smoke here. It's a non-smoking thing. I get that you want to smoke. Go outside and smoke, and then come back in. Don't smoke inside my place. Okay? The point is, these were things that actually happened in this chain that the person was talking about. And my answer is, yeah, I'm good with the idea of setting those boundaries, even if the parents didn't want to hear it. I get it. And I'm not telling you that you should say to that person, if I get that it's hard for you to live with this, and if you can't live with it and you can't come here, then I guess you can't come here. But you've got to live with this. That's what you've got to do. That's how that's got to work. And the thing is, sometimes it's going to mean there'll be a short break. But my answer to you is, don't make the break be a worse thing than it needs to be. Be conciliatory, but be honest and be firm. This is what I'm trying to get across today. If you think that separating yourself from your family is some sort of grand idea, let me tell you from the perspective of somebody who's been there, I'm not saying that there's no situation where that's called for, reasonable, etc., but I am telling you that where there are situations where that's the case, believe it or not, they're not the norm, rather they are the exception. Even with, quote, controlling parents, even with controlling relatives, the norm is to set boundaries and to tell people, to make it very clear to people, look, here are the boundaries. I'm sorry if you don't like that, and if you just can't work with it, I understand if you don't come to visit me, but you need to understand these are the boundaries. And it doesn't matter whether some third party is telling you this is what the boundary is, or whether it's something that you've decided on for yourself. When you move out on your own and you're paying all your own bills and all that kind of stuff, hey, guess what? It's on you how you want to keep your place. It's no longer on your parents. I know it's hard for them to accept that idea. I know they think they might have better ways of doing things better. But guess what? That's something for you to figure out. And if it's not something you do figure out, then when it comes right down to it, the chances are pretty good. They're going to make the change, and you're not going to figure that out. And later on, you're going to move on somewhere else, and you're going to change things right back to how they were before, or whatever, depending on how you've grown or changed in the meantime. My point is simple: set boundaries, make them firm, stick with it, but don't let that poison the well and destroy the life that you have with your family. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Thursday, the 17th of February of 2022. That means tomorrow will be Friday, the 18th of February of 2022. That will be the beginning of the Sabbath at the sundown for those who observe it. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on Minds, MINDS.com, on Parler, Gab, and wherever else you might be picking me up today. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a boxing glove or a Rumble on Rumble. You can also give me a plus or a minus on Rumble, or a like or dislike on any other platform that allows for that. And I'm happy to have them so that I know what people are thinking about what I'm putting out there. You can also comment on my content where it's available, and I will do my best to look at it and delete it if it's advertisements typically, but if it's not, I will try and understand why it is that you put the comment out there and try and work with it, and if I feel it's reasonable, I may respond to it as well. The subject for today has been setting boundaries, and tomorrow we're going to talk about soldiers killing soldiers, and I'll get into why I chose that particular subject on tomorrow. It has to do with a cartoon that somebody put out there that was broken and they didn't even realize it in some pretty important senses. But I will get into that some more tomorrow. You can be rest assured. Hope you're doing well today. Hope everything is going well for you. And hopefully we will see you again on Friday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was recorded on Thursday, the 17th of February of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.